can be a bookshelf if you are creative enough, including a shoe rack. Hello everybody, it is Katie here. It's been a while since I dipped into the old booktube, so I thought I'd return with a special treat for all you fellow nosy people out there. And I thought that I would give you an updated bookshelf tour. So I've only ever done one bookshelf tour in the past, and that was back in 2020, so it's been 3 years. I haven't added a new shelf here because I don't have the space, but I've gotten a bit creative. I've gotten a book trolley. Doesn't everyone get a book trolley eventually? It's inevitable. And in the attic room where I film the majority of my videos, I've had to get some sort of shelf up there just for other books that don't have a home, because I have lots of books that need a home. So my big problem is that I am very attached to books that I own, and I very, very rarely clear them out. Even books that I didn't really enjoy that much, I still keep them in case I want to talk about them at some point in the future, and I prefer to hold the actual book and be like, yeah, this book was shit. It's a problem. It is a problem. And that's why I'm suffering so much with lack of book space. But anyway, I'm going to give you the full tour. Like I did last time, I'm not going to look at my books individually because we would be here for a week. I'm just going to give you a little overview of each shelf, so you can see how I decorate it, how I organise it, which is badly. I don't have any sort of grand organisation scheme. I just put books next to each other. And that's that. If anyone remembers my last bookshelf tour, you will know that there were a lot of vintage cameras on the shelves because I collect vintage cameras. I'm happy to announce that there's not as many this time. There's still a few, but I mostly keep them off the shelves because I need all the space I can get. So yeah, there's less of them, but they're still there. Unfortunately, I have replaced them with Funkos and trinkets and plant cuttings. So let's delve right in and see what has changed in the past 3 years. I've just realised that I have to reach the top shelf, and the only chair I have in here is a swivel chair, and the little stool that I used to use to reach the higher shelves now has a plant on it. So I'm gonna have to go and get a step or something because I'm small. Wait, actually, new plan. I'm gonna move the plant because that will give me better access to the shelves. And I can use the stool. This is Loki, by the way. So this is shelf number 1, which I'm going to show you first. As you can see, I now have a step to stand on so that I can reach enormous heights. So if anyone is interested in what's on top of my shelves, it's mostly a lot of Funko boxes. So the top shelf is mostly middle grade sort of stuff. I have my Gallagher Girls series, the Super Awkward series. Then over here I have some seasonal books. These ones are all summer, these ones are all Christmas. And then I have a little colour block of random rom-com adventure type books, along with my little friends from the British Museum. As we move down onto this shelf, I have collections of various authors. So I have my Lisa Williamson section, some John Green, Patrick Ness, Juno Dawson, Jenny Han, Jandy Nelson, Melinda Salisbury, and some Maureen Johnson there behind a vintage camera, and a BTS can, which I don't know why that's still there, but it is. It lives there now. Down on this shelf we have a little historical section. It's not all older history. I've got Evelyn Hugo there as well, so some of it is more modern history, but they're all set in a different time period to ours. Then moving over here we have my sci-fi section with my little Paul and my little Loki. It's only a small section because I'm not the biggest lover of sci-fi books, but I do have some standout favourites here, like the Becky Chambers and Stardust. I would like to read more sci-fi eventually. Moving further down the bookcase, we have the classic YA dystopia books over here. We have Matched and Divergent, which is two series I never finished. Then the Legend trilogy, obviously the Hunger Games. I have my little pot full of bookish related pins and keyrings. Over here we have a tiny little fantasy trio, and over in this section, this is my newest niche area, we have queer sports books. It is actually quite hilarious that I have managed to gather enough queer sports books to create a section. I've also got some queer cheerleader books that are going to go here at some point as well, but until I've reorganised it, we have my favourite facing outwards. But this is why I have my little Victor Nikiforov Funko in this area specifically, you know? I also have a plant cutting from one of my pothos plants, which is dangling nicely down there. So down here is one of my favourite shelves, and I haven't really reorganised it much since my last bookshelf tour, just because I like the layout of it so much, but this is my classic shelf. Over here I have some of my old Penguin classics, and then down here we just have other various classics as well. Big Forster section, Virginia section, two of my oldest books on the shelf, and then some miscellaneous ones as well. I do still have a vintage camera here because this is my favourite vintage camera, and an old perfume bottle, and some old photographs, just to match with the vibe of the shelf. Oh wait, another vintage camera as well, because, you know, they just look good on this shelf, so I'm allowed. I do actually have quite a few classics that are just dotted around the house on no particular shelf. They're just like on desks and used as decoration as well. So this isn't my full collection, but these are the ones that sit nicely on the shelf. So down here on the bottom shelf, I just have a pile of books, mostly white ones because the sun comes in this direction and I don't want colourful books getting bleached. So I've put the already faded white ones there. I have my Polaroid and some Polaroid pictures and a pen pot because everybody needs a pen pot. And then over here I have an old CD rack that I fashioned into a bookshelf. So on my CD rack turn shelf we have a couple of contemporaries, some music books, circus books, and then a series I haven't finished. Got some anthology books there. And then down here I just have a series of hardbacks that I was sent to review, and then some more proof copies down there, and a couple of writing books with a lovely vintage film camera. In case you're wondering what these ones are, they're colouring books. Moving on to shelf number 2. So the first shelf here is fantasy books. I've started with hardback ones over here. I have my Sorcery of Thorns collection, the Diviners series, some V. Schwab, and then I have Maggie's books and Diane Wynne Jones as well. And tiny little Deluxe from Genshin Impact. The next shelf down is where my Pride and Joy books are, quite literally. So these shelves are all dedicated to LGBTQ plus books. They're not really in any particular order. I've got some little clusters of certain authors, but other than that I've just randomly arranged them. I have these ones set out like a rainbow. Then I have some queer band books, and I don't mean band as in you're not allowed to read them, I mean band as in the thing that Jin is in. Music bands. I don't know why Jin is on this shelf specifically, I'm not trying to hint at anything, I just thought he looked cute in that corner. So down onto the next queer shelf, I have my little rainbow mug with my Pam bookmark, so let me just move that out of the way. So this shelf is arranged in clusters of queer authors. I have my big Simon James Green collection and my Alice Oseman collection with my favourite book of all time. My sister managed to get me the American cover for Christmas, and I'm obsessed. Just look at how beautiful that is. So down here on this shelf is the queer fantasy section specifically. Again, I've tried to arrange this by author, so we have a TJ Klune section, F.T. Lukens, we've got some Aidan Thomas, Rainbow Rowell, C.S. Pacat, and then I have Summer Suns, which is more dark academia than fantasy, but it's got fantasy elements in it, so I've placed it here anyway. I have my little Simon and Baz bookmarks, and then I have some character cards that I got with my pre-order of Dark Rise. Down here is a more recent, but definitely a favourite shelf, and it is the graphic novel collection. Starting off with Fence, which is my absolute favourite graphic novel series. If you haven't read Fence, then please pick it up. I cannot stress enough how fantastic it is. Especially if you're somebody who likes like sports manga and anime, but you also want some queer rep in there, then Fence is for you. And then it wouldn't be my shelf without a Heartstopper collection. So I have the original graphic novels, I have the one with the TV show cover, and I have the yearbook. I am yet to buy the hardback special editions, but they will definitely be joining the shelf at some point. Then I have some more miscellaneous ones. I've got Sandman ones, which were a present from one of my best friends, Jasmine, this Christmas. I have some chunkier ones here, and the first two Fangirl graphic novels as well, and a little Squishmallow. So onto the bottom shelf. Over here I just have a selection of biography, real life type books. I have some general life enhancing books, and then if we move Totoro out of the way, I've got some anxiety and grief related books as well. And then over here we have a series of coffee table books that aren't on a coffee table, they're on my shelf. I have a Van Gogh book, Bloomsbury book that I will move out of the way for the purpose of showing you these ones, a Supernatural book, a K-pop photo book, some Ghibli art books, some favourite artist books, and then this one is cute. This is pictures of readers through the ages. I found this in a charity shop a while ago and I was absolutely obsessed with it because it's just the most me book you will ever find as a lover of vintage photography and books. So yeah. And now we have my out of control TBR trolley. So this is all books that I am yet to read or finish because I put some of them down for the time being. I don't have them in any particular order. I have some more down here. I have Little Magnetic Gin. Isn't he neat? He guards my TBR and reminds me to actually read them. I don't have books down here, I just needed somewhere else to keep sketchbooks and notebooks, so yeah. Eventually I'll probably have actual books down there as well. So this is a shelf that some early viewers might recognise because I used to film videos here, but the light that comes in through the window can be very problematic when you are a glasses wearer, and sometimes I'd look like those typical glasses wearing anime boys where their eyes would just go white. So yeah, it wasn't a good look, which is why I moved location. But I still have this bookshelf here and a little setup just in case I ever do decide to film a video here. So I have lots of bookish art and just art in general in this section to decorate it up a bit. I have Grishaverse map, a map from Dark Rise. I have Zhongli from Genshin Impact reading a book because I love him. And then just various other bookish postcards and stuff that look good next to this shelf. So on the top I have a little Meg Cabot section. That's not my full collection of her books, but they're her main fantasy ones. And then I also have my hardback of Hellbent because I have nowhere else to fit it in, and my special edition of Chain of Gold, which is signed. And back here I have my cup that contains all of my bookmarks, and there are so many. So down here we have the Cassandra Clare shelf. Let me tell you now, arranging this shelf was like playing a game of Jenga. It's a big shelf, but as you can see there is no more space on it. So I am dreading Cassie's next book because God knows where it's gonna go. I do have my little Clockwork Angel, a little bookmark of Magnus that was made for me by a friend, my own painted bookmark, a little stele, and a vintage camera, obviously. Oh, I also have a little angelic symbol keyring up there. So moving down, we have some fave authors. I have my Cruel Prince area, my Leigh Bardugo area, and I have my Rick Riordan section over here as well. I have a little cardon plate that was from Fairy Loot. I have a little Ketterdam badge, a little Wyland card, and then some cards from when I met Lee on her tour. I have my little Camp Half-Blood bookmark that I made, and then I have my Cruel Prince print next to the books as well. So moving down here, we have another fairly newish shelf that has grown to need a much bigger section, and it is the manga shelf. So this shelf contains a lot of figures and collectibles as well. I have my banana fish collection over here because it's my absolute favourite manga and anime. Little bits on the wall for it as well. And then I just have manga that I've collected up. I have my Bungo Stray Dogs collection down here because that's the main manga that I collect. My little Chuya figure, some Haikyuu figures. I have L from Death Note back there. I have some stuff relating to Free, the anime as well. Little Demon Slayer figures. And then I have some anime key rings hanging off a little pin here. With this being such a big shelf as well, I have a little shelf insert that I found in a charity shop just so that I could fit more on here. Just in case you're interested, my door at the side has some little Heartstopper leaf stickers that I've made for myself, and I have my various bookish totes. The Heartstopper one that I painted and one from Notting Hill Bookshop as well. You guys definitely didn't ask for a desk tour, but in case you're interested, this is my desk. So this is where I do my blogging, but also gaming, which is my other main interest outside of reading. So I love having a space that I can work at but also have fun at. So that used to be a bookshelf, but it fell down with books on it, so now it just contains plushies and another plank cutting. And I have pretty lights, a pretty speaker, I have a BT21 mouse, and then a pretty keyboard with Genshin keys. So yeah, that's my desk. So this place is more recognisable for you all because this is where I film, but it has had a bit of an upgrade since I last made a video. So I'm going to give you a tour of the ladder shelf that I hold all the way up here so that I could display books where I film. So I don't have many of my fiction books up here because the majority of them are on my shelves downstairs, but I do have a few. Holding up my at, I have just a selection of some contemporaries and then a big section of thriller type books, and then some more important issue stories at the end here. And then down here I have my Rainbow Rowell collection. I have my hardback copy of the Carry On trilogy downstairs, but the rest of Rainbow's books are here just because on the shelf downstairs the light was hitting them too much, and I noticed that my copies of Fangirl were getting a little bit sun bleached. So I panicked and brought them up here where they're not close to the window. I have another little shelf insert here as well, so I can lace some there, put some on top with my little Fangirl coffee cup as well. And then over here I've just got a few proof copies of books, and then a big fantasy pile. This is my copy of City of Bones from when the film came out, and it's signed by Cassie and Jamie, so it's still very much a treasured possession. This is a little postcard that I made. So down here on the big boy shelf, this is where I keep my local history books and my books about Everest. So the 1924 Everest expedition, where George Mallory and Sandy Irvine died trying to be the first to reach the top, is a niche interest of mine. Fun fact for you there. So here's the evidence of that. Over here in this random rectangle shelf that I couldn't put on my wall because every time we tried to put the screws in the wall, the plaster just came away. So it just ended up existing. I turned it this way so that I could put some classics in it. So now it's a random feature piece on my ladder shelf. Truly, I don't waste anything. So over here behind my little Heartstopper postcards, I just have a selection of proof copies that I've been sent over the years with a vintage camera. And then I don't really have anything on the bottom shelf because I needed somewhere to put my printer. But I do have a couple of colouring books. I've got the Heartstopper colouring book and then two that were too big for my little section downstairs. So there's that. So this is my most recent bookish addition to the house, and this is my £6 wooden shoe rack that I have turned into a little miniature bookshelf for the random pile of books that I had at the side of the seat where I film. So down the side here, I literally used to have an old broken heater, and then I just piled books on top of it, and it just looked very unsightly. And I also needed to get rid of the heater because it was broken and it was just taking up useless space. So I put a shoe rack down the side instead. It was a lot cheaper than buying another shelf. So on my makeshift bookshelf, I have just a selection of big chunky hardbacks. I have my original copy of Carry On, an extra copy of Any Way the Wind Blows, and I also have this copy of Heartstopper, which is signed. So this was just a good place to keep all of these, really, so that I could have some books in the background when I film sitting down as well. And then underneath I have some of my mum's Stephen King collection, which is now jointly owned by me. And then I have some middle grade classic fantasies. And then down here, some more middle grade modern fantasies and bigger books that I have no other space for. And then down here I have some random paperback coffee table books. I have an official guide for the Mortal Instruments movie, one for the Hunger Games, and I have an anthology that I have my own work in as well. So at the side of my bookshelf, I also have my vinyl area with some K-pop albums, and I'm hoping that this section doesn't need to become an extra bookshelf. And so that concludes the Great Bookshelf Tour of 2023. So I've definitely added some new bits and pieces over the past few years. I'm hoping that now I've started to get creative with my storage solutions, that I won't run out of space too quickly. At the moment I still have some books facing outwards for display purposes that could definitely be turned in if I need more space. And even though my books are dotted around all over the place, I am very happy with the way they're arranged. I love my book collection. It makes me happy every day. So just quickly before I go, if there was something on my shelf that you were interested in knowing more about and I quickly zoomed past it, then please feel free to ask away down in the comments. Or if there was a book that you were interested in, you want to see the title in full, wherever it is, then feel free to ask. And if you have any ideas for videos that can be filmed that include my bookshelves, whether it's bookish hunts or a task or a challenge, then send them my way. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!